And so, as much as I love Die Hard, it was never like, oh, I'd love to meet Bruce Willis.
As I am blindfolded.
Yeah, were you fully on board for this whole process?
I wanted to see his comic book collection. It's hidden in the house. You can't know where it is. And he's got this 30-year-old hot British wife, giant pile of jugs, man. And Ellison comes out shirtless. Goes, you motherfucker, Chris Gore, what the fuck are you?
I'm too lazy to do a podcast, so I appear on other people's podcasts. This is PodCRASH with that Chris Gore.
Welcome to the show. I am that Chris Gore. This is PodCRASH. This is the show where you get to hear me as a guest each week on a different podcast. We are here live at WonderCon. I am actually podcasting from the mobile unit, the PDX 1000A, because I have to redesign it, I realize. Although I think it needs a rename, maybe calling it the Crash unit, some acronym for Crash. But I'm also joined by Patrick Ian Moore, who's become now kind of a co-host of sorts on episodes of PodCRASH.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. I'm here. I'm at WonderCon. This is awesome. I love it.
And you're a little hungover because last night we got into a party at WonderCon where it was open bar, right?
Yeah.
And I think it seemed to me the way you were drinking, it's like the first open bar you'd ever been to.
Well, sometimes I go overboard because it feels like I'm throwing money away if I don't really exploit open bars. That's why I go to almost any event I can get on the list for.
Seeing you this morning at breakfast, it looked as if you'd been punched in the face.
Yeah, that was rough. It was early, and I'm glad if I'd have eaten that breakfast, though, I'd be way too full now.
Right.
You know, that's another thing, those buffets, I can't...
Oh my God, the Stormtrooper with the best earrings I have ever seen. Look at that Stormtrooper, Jesus. We are walking the floor, actually, at WonderCon here in Anaheim, California, which is, I just learned, actually, there was a story in Variety that said that the attendance here is up 63%, and potentially WonderCon could end up eclipsing Comic-Con. I will say that being here, Anaheim's already a tourist town because of, Disneyland.
I hope it just totally eclipses, buries the San Diego Comic-Con. Once I had some coffee and another drink and got high, though, I felt a lot better.
Well, you can do anything at Disneyland, certainly, and anything here at WonderCon. I've seen more Harley Quinns with giant mallets than I think any other kind of costume. I think it's the female costume of choice because I feel like it's like girls being able to run around in their pajamas from when they were a kid.
For real. A lot of Fionas this year, too, though.
And a lot of Fionas.
Oh, it's the Joker guy that we saw.
Oh, my gosh. You're so awesome. Oh, God, your costume's amazing. Let me get out of your way. I apologize. Fantastic.
I love your book.
Oh, thank you very much. Excellent. So we are rolling through the hall here, just checking out all of the wonders at WonderCon.
There is a Gandalf. He looks great. He looks perfect.
And he's the right height. I love when someone cosplays, they already kind of look like, the character that they're cosplaying as.
Like that Aquaman that we saw.
Yeah, like there was a guy we saw that was dressed as Aquaman that looked exactly like he had the facial structure of Aquaman, and then he made a face when we took pictures of him. So we're here, actually, I'm going to be doing PodCRASH live later, but and you'll hear that episode with Adrian Curry. But just seeing how WonderCon has grown, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, this is only my second one, and they were saying that last year, too, and now it's way, 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 way bigger.
Well, we're going to let's head down to Artist Alley, because Artist Alley, we're sort of strolling through. I see the Geek Magazine booth, which is awesome. We see, let's see, Boom Studios. And there it is, Capcom and Bandai Namco Games, gaming companies here. And I feel like I see so many girls. Oh, wow, look at all this steampunk stuff. I see so many girls wearing steampunk stuff, and I feel like steampunk needs its own movie. They've got to be... At some point, someone needs to take all the steampunkiness and actually make a steampunk film.
Right. Because there really isn't anything when you think about it. There's like goofy stuff.
Right.
Bad examples.
Right. But not like a film that sort of brings all that steampunk fandom together.
Why don't we just write one?
So someone needs to do one
for
sure.
The human chain almost got us.
But
it's Mega Man. Mega Man.
oh my
was
gosh, there's a guy dressed in a full Mega Man. Look at this.
Nintendo game.
Oh, this is crazy. This is insane. Hey, how's
We
it going?
got the thumbs
we're,
up from
we're,
a pretty girl.
we're doing a podcast
We're
right
doing
now. We're doing a podcast as we speak.
It is.
So-
It's Link. Link and Mega Man. They're all of my favorite games from 1987.
Whoa. Okay, this booth is getting a little lot. We got to make our way. We got to make our way at some point to the artist alley. Let's head this
which
way.
way is that?
It's down this corner. If you've never been to WonderCon, it's an orgy for all the senses.
Yeah. It's Marty McFly from Back to the Future 2's hat.
And it's the hat is amazing. It's something that if you took a photo of it, you would not. It doesn't do it justice. It's got that. Wow, that's so cool. All right, here's the best way to get to Artist Alley.
All right.
I feel like we're trying to follow the yellow brick road.
And then what we got here, I can't tell. What's here? We got
Mega Man is drawing a crowd.
a lot of Commissioner Gordon's on his day off costumes this year at WonderCon.
I think that's security, which we were reprimanded by security with bringing this thing in. I can't believe they. First of all, I can't believe they let us bring this thing in.
There are
And
a lot
secondly,
of gray-haired guys with mustaches wearing shorts, though. I feel like that's Jim Gordon on Sunday.
but there's
patio style.
but there's a lot. We were giving out some flyers earlier, and that's a no-no. So we figured out that that's something that we need to avoid, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the press guy still hasn't even told us if we can put the cards on the table.
We'll find that out later. So what is the best thing that you've seen so far, Patrick?
I mean, there are a lot of sexy girls here, that's for sure. And Jim Steranko.
Yeah, Jim Steranko, oh my God. He didn't allow photos taken of him, but Jim Steranko looked so amazing. He had this like just sort of dapper look.
Yeah,
it was
no, he
incredible.
lives by the Aboriginal code of no pictures. It damages the soul.
I saw the DC booth had some really cool, like just really. It's weird to get excited about T-shirts, but that and the Stylin' Online booth also had just some amazing shirts that they're sort of like shirt costumes. You know, if you're too lazy to get a costume, it's like you could just get a hoodie and it's like, well, you're Chewbacca. You know, it comes with everything.
For real.
Yeah.
I did.
No, it's fantastic.
Nichelle Nichols. That was cool.
What?
Yeah, she's
You
here.
saw Nichelle Nichols?
She's with Bruce Boxleitner right now.
What are they doing? That's a weird mashup.
Because was he on Star Trek or something?
What's that? Bruce
Boxleitner.
Boxleitner? No, he's Tron.
I know, but he didn't have like a.
I don't
Babylon
know. Did he
5
ever
or
do that?
something.
I have no idea.
I think he might have.
Cupcakes. Hello.
And
I actually saw a cupcake.
Maybe like Deanna Troy.
This is
here?
if you're ADD like me, these kind of conventions are kind of the worst possible thing for you because everywhere I turn, it's this thing and then the next thing and then I got to see this thing and I got to see that thing. It's just crazy.
If you want to show your support for PodCRASH, join Dollar Shave Club. We all shave. I like to shave my face. I shave other places too. Women shave. This is for everybody. Well, this will save you money and time by joining Dollar Shave Club. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/Chris. Simple, high-quality razors, guaranteed, sent to you on schedule. Every month you get a new pack. I am signing up for this because that's a way that I can actually support my own show, which in a way supports me. So go to dollarshaveclub.com/Chris.
Here we are at our Artist Alley. We finally made it to Artist Alley, and this is to me this is the real Comic-Con. What I love about the Comic-Con organizers is that no matter how large it gets, and the bigger companies will get the big booths, whether it's a movie studio or whatnot, trying to promote something, they always mark off they mark off a certain amount of space just for smaller companies and artists trying to sell their wares, and that to me is where the real action is here at WonderCon and any of the cons. I prefer that stuff. I like that kind of creativity. And I was at this booth where they make glasses, like you can get like frames for glasses that are made from comic books. Oh, nice. They actually take like the sides of the glasses are like they're wood framed glasses that they actually embed comic panels in. My description of it, oh my god, the best Rocky ever.
Whoa, is that?
That guy, oh my god. Hey,
It's real.
yo, Adrian.
Oh my gosh,
that's
it's
awesome.
the best Rocky of all time.
So that's a dedicated cosplayer. When you have to actually work out to do your cosplay, oh dude, look at those Star Trek uniforms. They're perfect. Okay, we have to head to that booth. We have to head to that booth. It's right next to the Artist Alley. We'll get back to Artist Alley. But let's talk about this week's. What else have you seen at WonderCon, or people that you've seen?
I mean, there's so much here. There's amazing R2-D2s and costumes. The toys here are quite excellent too.
This is the best
a lot of
Bane.
these
Look at this.
vendors-
Look at this guy dressed as Bane. It's the best Bane, and he's got the outfit that he wore when he went to the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's got that sort of pimp jacket. Oh man, that is awesome. Oh my God! And now we're seeing this booth that has alien figures. That it's a set. I've seen these before, where they're alien figures from the original Alien that were intended to be made by Kenner, but are actually. They never were produced, so they made this whole line of action figures that were for Alien. They were never produced, so they actually now then made them.
You
So
remember that
they're
big
reproducing
alien
them.
doll, though, that they did do?
Yes, that had like where the mouth came out. Oh look, what's going on? Hey, good to see you. Hey,
Are you cleaning up?
I'm doing my podcast right now. Can I talk to you for a second?
Why, yes, you may.
This is the legendary Jeff Boucher of Hero Complex for the LA Times. It's an amazing column, also writer for many magazines, including Entertainment Weekly, among others. You did that cover story on Star Wars.
I did, and I did one on Star Trek, and on the stands right now is the World War Z exclusive interview with Brad Pitt, who is an actor.
Brad Pitt well, I'm looking forward to whatever it is that they have. I hope. I haven't been too excited by the trailers. I love that book. The Max Brooks book is incredible.
It's a great book. It's got so many ideas. It's just overflowing with ideas and sort of the geopolitical scene of it all and the sweep. I'll tell you, the movie is very good. I've seen the whole thing.
Yes.
It is very good, but it is not the book. It's very, very different than the book.
Because I feel like the book would almost be better if the History Channel did it as like a fake history, a fake historical event.
Yeah, or, AMC, like sort of like
Right.
a post-Walking Dead kind of thing. It's this one is going very much toward the kind of 28 days later. It's not supernatural. It's just you're sick, you're dead, and you come back. But really, it's just a viral sort of scientific thing. And the most fascinating thing about the movie is the biomechanical execution of movement by the zombies. What they did is they studied the way bees swarm and that salmon spawn and the way Firefly fans congregate, and they use their very distinctive patterns for these animals. And like they do a kind of if you can imagine a tower that's built like an ice cream swirl in reverse of ants going up toward a leaf, they use that kind of movement to pull down helicopters.
Oh, whoa.
So that I give them major props for, because it's the rare moment these days when you look at something and you go, I haven't seen that before. And that's very hard to do with zombies. But some people are not going to like that because I didn't see any ant-towering zombies in George Romero's movies.
Yeah, George Romero really sort of set the rules of how zombies work.
Totally.
But I mean, I could think that that's completely possible. I love. Where is it in fiction where we've seen that like giant tower of people where they make a giant person from people? I've seen it in a comic book and I can't remember where. Or was it in a video game? Anyways, I've seen that image before. That's I like when someone moves it forward. I really think fandom is going to decide whether that's something that is embraced or not.
I think you're exactly right. And I know my 12-year-old son who adores video games and is on everything that is new and exciting. He saw the trailer and he goes, I got to see that.
Really?
He's like, I've never seen that before. So that is a really hard thing to do these days. I mean, we live in a CG-saturated, imagery overload, been there, done that. Let's do it again and call it parody. Let's do it again and call it an homage. But if you can do something fresh and exciting, people notice. And I mean, remember when we saw Terminator 2,
Right.
or when we saw The Matrix, and we saw something move on the screen in a new way. It's a very sort of audience-invigorating thing.
And the new Star Wars, J.J. Abrams, what can we expect from that? I think that's been much discussed here.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's the question. I have to admit, I'm kind of amused by watching all the stuff about the cast members are in, the cast members are thinking about it, the cast members have no idea what's going on because Michael Arndt's screenplay is on J.J. Abrams' desk, and J.J.'s deciding whether he wants him to rewrite 1 page or 300 pages. Michael
Right.
Arndt doesn't know what the movie is. Kathy Kennedy doesn't know what the movie is. J.J. took the deal because he has creative control. He's very good at keeping secrets. This just in. And you cannot negotiate a contract for Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, or Mark Hamill unless you know that they're doing a cameo or they're in every frame of the movie, because you're going to ask for a different amount of money. Right. So nobody knows much of anything. I will say this, is that I think that JJ is one of the smartest people I've ever met, and I don't mean just in Hollywood. I just mean, 20 years as a journalist at the LA Times, interviewing politicians and scientists and academics and murderers and lions and tigers and bears. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, so I would never bet against him.
Well, I do think that it will be the best of the new Star Wars movies post-Jedi. That is my prediction.
So you think it... Well, that's almost as good as my answer on the other one. Because that doesn't really say much anything.
It doesn't say anything because none of us know anything.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing my podcast here.
I thought you had like Oscar the Grouch. Like I thought there was like...
Yes, it's a giant can that rolls. Yeah, there's a puppet that it's... But this is my mobile podcasting unit, which... videos everything and does all that stuff, and we're recording here live at WonderCon.
I am so ripping off this idea.
Go, please do.
But mine's going to be a Dalek.
Yeah, make a Dalek, and you can have Hero Complex. I picked up your latest issue on the... I love how you do those special editions.
I'm not there anymore.
Are you not there anymore?
I quit the LA Times after 21 years. I walked out.
Wow.
On a Tuesday, I walked in, thought I was going to work there another 20 years. 2 hours later, like a pouty child, I stormed out, and I haven't been back since. That was in November.
Wow. How did I not know this?
Well, you know what? I think you look for the positive things in life.
Yes,
I think you look for the positive. You don't dwell on the negative. But and it's not really that big a deal. I mean, to people outside my wife, who was a little alarmed by the fact that I quit. But I am now at Entertainment Weekly, and I'm a senior writer there, and I've launched a new website called Cape Town. That's very exciting.
I'll contact you, obviously, not via Hero Complex, but via you.
Yeah.
I apologize about that. I didn't know that you were gone. I just, every time...
I'm not offended by that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, why, you know what, I...
You probably still think I work at G4, except there is no G4.
I thought this was G4.
Yeah. This is what's left of G4. All the stuff I could steal in this crate.
Aww.
Yeah.
I have to admit, though, I mean, this is amazing, Chris. I've never seen
thank you.
anything like this.
It's the Podbot. I don't know what we're going to call it.
See, now when the
X-Pod
zombies come,
1000.
Now,
Yes.
if we looked up right now and some like zombies were coming over that wall, we'd all start running, and you would hop in this thing.
I would hop
and
in this
hide
thing.
down,
Yeah.
and we'd never see you again.
Yeah. It would be.
over
I
the
would just. Yeah, I could hide.
I guess
in
they
this
can't
thing.
do visual jokes on the podcast.
No, they don't really work.
Should I put my pants on?
Yeah, put your pants back on.
All right.
Oh man. Well, hey, thanks for filling us in and everything you're doing, and thanks for being on my show and giving me these exclusives.
I am going to be at the Phoenix Comic-Con Memorial Day weekend, May 23rd through 26th. I'm going to be there the whole weekend. Be doing PodCRASH live on Saturday, May 25th at 7:30 p.m. Very special. It's my second time back to Phoenix Comic-Con. You can get more information at phoenixcomiccon.com or go to facebook.com/PodCRASH.
Gamefly, better know.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what are you doing? I'm doing my podcast. What are you up to?
Yeah, I did a panel.
You did? How was your panel?
It was good. You know Jen Kretschmer, don't you?
Jen, hi. Chris Gore. Good to meet you. Yeah, it's my buddy
look at
Patrick.
This. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Nice to meet you. I'm Javi.
Nice to meet you.
This is called we're trying to call it the Crash. It's the contained, rolling, whatever it is.
Fantastic. I love what you're doing.
It's a whole, it's a whole setup to do a podcast.
Cool.
We're rolling around here. What are you up to?
Well, I just got a job on a movie show at Sci-Fi.
Yes?
And have a pilot with them, so it's all good.
Javi, can you talk about it?
I'd love to.
Yes?
Yes. Oh, are we actually podcasting as
Well,
we
I'm
speak?
recording it, but it's not live.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to talk about it, sure.
Okay, cool. Well, tell me about this pilot that you just sold.
Well, I actually handed in yesterday to the nice folk at Sci-Fi. It's called Infinity.
Yes?
It's a spaceship show. Sci-Fi wants to get back in the spaceship business. They've got a couple of things in that order. They have Blake 7 and a couple of other things.
Nice.
I'm a contender in there. It's a show where... Imagine if the people from Star Trek had the predicaments of Star Trek, but they had a ship from the 21st century.
Right.
So their ship basically sucks. They're like they're like space. It's basically the only ship available to go meet the aliens was Richard Branson's ship.
Right.
And they wind up lost in space, and they can't do a damn thing with it. They don't have phasers. They don't have the first few episodes are going to be figuring out how to land on this one planet when the ship was built to land on a runway. So it's a really different take on your spaceship.
Cool.
It's going to be fun.
It actually sounds like real science. Like you sort of.
Yes.
I love that.
I talk to people who know science to figure out how. The thing about
really?
it is,
Really? That's fantastic.
But you wind up making I'm worried because it took them like a week to get the space shuttle from the airport to like the museum here in California. And they get the ship ready in about 2 months, and I'm like, oh god, that's really narrow time frame, but it's okay. I think the audience will.
That's the one thing they'll probably forgive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh, hopefully they'll forgive all my writing, but there's that too. And then I just got a job. I'm co-executive producer of a new show on Sci-Fi called Helix.
Right.
It's being executive produced by Ron Moore. You might have heard of him.
Of course. Yes, I have.
And it's being showrun by a guy named Steve Maeda, who was one of the co-executive producers of Lost, so it's a little bit of a reunion for us. Created by a guy named Cameron Persande. It's a show about the CDC is sent to an Arctic station to investigate an outbreak. And it's about what happens when that outbreak winds up being a lot more than just an outbreak. So Sci-Fi has greenlit it for 13 episodes. I just started the job on Monday. It's really exciting stuff, so yeah.
Congrats. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's fun. Ron Moore, he's done some stuff, right?
He's done a couple things that we might have heard of.
That we might have enjoyed. Galactica, DS9.
Battlestar Galactica,
tiny little things,
show.
nothing
Yes.
too big. So, but it's all good. It's actually been, I'm very excited, and I'm glad to be sort of full time in the grind of doing genre, both in my day job and my development. I couldn't be happier. So
can I just say this, Javi, is that you have such an amazing voice. I can hear it on. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast?
I've been asked before, but I don't know. I think I'm a better podcast guest than.
You are a great podcast
thank
guest.
you.
You're a great podcast guest.
Well, but I think something should be left to professionals. I try to entertain America from my desk, and I have a feeling that if I was asked to be extemporaneous on a regular basis, we'd all be in real trouble. So when Chris Hardwick walks the earth and you walk the earth, what's the point of having me around?
Yes, well, I'm often confused as being Chris Hardwick.
Oh, you're better
so
looking.
That helps. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. That was Javier Grillo Marchot. I think Marchot is the correct pronunciation. He's affectionately known as Javi. You run into so many people here at WonderCon.
All right, let me tell you about this week's Crash. I was on a show called Man School with Caleb Bacon, and Caleb Bacon, he's formerly of the Gentleman's Club. He did the Gentleman's Club podcast. He's also a writer on the TV show Sullivan and Sons, a show that I hope to watch one day. Anyways, Caleb is great. I've been on the Gentleman's Club, and his show Man School is it's a show where men come on and tell stories about their lives. In one episode, Jordan Harbinger talks about getting kidnapped and how he actually survived getting kidnapped. In one of the episodes, this guy Brian talks about dealing with brain cancer. I mean, the episodes of the show are really these amazing stories from men, not your typical stories, but just dealing with baldness, dealing with things that men have to deal with that aren't the typical things that one would think. And he had me on an episode of the show where I talk about meeting one of my heroes. I actually talk about meeting Harlan Ellison. On the same episode, you're going to hear, because I'm going to play just sort of the chunk of because it's an episode that is an extra credit episode. Most of the episodes are 30 to 40 minutes. This is a very short episode. This guy named Bald Brian, who's a call screener at Loveline, he also used to work with Adam Carolla. He talks about meeting one of his heroes. So you're going to hear Caleb talk to Bald Brian. You're going to hear him talk to me, and I'm going to tell the story about Harlan Ellison and Forey Ackerman. And it involves comic books, which is perfect because here we are at WonderCon. So here it is, Man School with Caleb Bacon.
You were a Loveline call screener.
I was the call screener for Loveline.
So between Loveline, the Adam Carolla show that was on the radio, the Adam Carolla podcast, you've had so many people come through these studios and to be guests on the show.
Yeah.
Whether they're comedians, musicians, porn stars, whatever it is.
Sure.
So have you met any of your actual heroes that way?
Interesting. You know what? I'll start this off by saying, before I worked in radio, I was a writer for Channel 1 News. You know what Channel 1 News is? The in-school news network?
I don't.
They're sort of like a CNN for teens.
Okay.
They pump them into schools subscribe, and they give it to them for free, and they pump them into schools. And that's where Anderson Cooper started, and Serena Altschul, and a whole bunch of Lisa Ling, and a bunch of news personalities. Started off at Channel 1 News. But I wrote for them, and I had the opportunity to interview Luc Robitaille, the hockey player. I asked him, what you get standard questions for teens. What was, your greatest accomplishment? What's your best piece of advice? And he said, never meet your idols. And I was like, really? And didn't answer me directly, but through another story, I knew what he meant. He had the opportunity to play with Wayne Gretzky, who he grew up idolizing. And Wayne Gretzky was kind of an asshole. And he loved Wayne Gretzky as a teen and coming up through the league. And then when he got to play with him, he was crestfallen because Wayne Gretzky was a dick. He never said this. I intimated it.
Sure.
And so his advice was never meet your idols because that's going to disappoint you. It's almost 100% chance it's going to disappoint you. So I feel lucky that I have not had the opportunity to meet those people I maybe have idolized when I grew up. But keep in mind that when I was growing up, my idols were Jose Canseco, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Optimus Prime. I don't know how to have the opportunity to beat Optimus Prime, but man, how awesome would that be? I have not, and I'm lucky that people I've met through the show who I really admire. I'm thinking maybe specifically of like Larry Miller, the comedian. Mm-hmm. I got lucky in that he's that 1% where he's a really great guy. In fact, he's a much better guy than you hope because he plays a lot of smarmy characters. Maybe his persona is a little bit caustic or a little, standoffish.
Are you thinking of his role in the Carrot Top film Chairman of the Board?
That and others, maybe as the dean of or the college principal, the college president in The Nutty Professor, or as the evil store manager in The Pretty Woman. But he's that guy. He's that guy. He does it so well. But the irony is, off camera, he's the sweetest guy in the world. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity to meet him. I was like, oh, Larry Miller's coming into the show. This is back in 2007. I'm like, I love that guy. I think he's hilarious. I love his 5 levels of drinking and all that stuff. And was so pleased to find out that he was a truly great guy.
So who else is super nice?
More people are nice than you would think. I was a huge Guns N' Roses fan coming up through high school and junior high and all that. And while I would hesitate to ever meet Axl Rose because he's a very strange dude from what I hear.
Sure. He has dreadlocks.
He does.
Yeah.
When Duff McKagan came into the show, really nice guy, really friendly, really, sweet guy. And I've not had the opportunity to meet Slash, but I understand he's the same way. So I would imagine that a lot of those guys that I grew up idolizing were, swell dudes, and maybe they're better kept as images in your mind. You know what I mean? Have you had the opportunity to meet any of your idols?
I think I'm sort of like you.
Or anyone you idolized?
I was more of a sports guy like you growing up.
Right.
And so as much as I loved Die Hard, it was never like, oh, I'd love to meet Bruce Willis.
Oh, interesting.
It was never quite like
I never
that.
really had a thing for movie stars either. Like Larry seemed like a very approachable guy because he was a stand-up and a different kind of character. But the movie star thing, I mean, it's probably the difference between movie stars and TV stars, where TV stars are in your house, they're in your home, they're in your living room, bedroom perhaps, whereas movie stars, they're on the silver screen, they're projected up at you, they're literally larger than life.
I've gotten to work with Dustin Hoffman.
That's cool.
And he's like the greatest guy.
Cool.
But like at the same time, he was never like an idol of mine.
Sure,
even though I
admired.
Loved him for years.
Of course.
I got to meet Tom Hanks, and he was really cool. And he has kind of like a dark sense of humor,
right,
which I thought was interesting.
I almost got to meet my favorite musician, Noel Gallagher. Mm-hmm. When I say almost, I was a screener at K-Rock, which is a local LA station out here, and Noel was in the building doing something.
Okay.
And I saw him from down the hall, and half of me was like, fuck, go up and say something. It's your favorite musician. And he's here promoting music, and he's not, it's not a dinner or something. You're not interrupting him. The other half is like, I'm good. I'm better off not having a weird interaction with Noel. Noel, I'm a big fan. Oh, thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
But was Luke Robitaille playing in your head when you saw Noel Gallagher?
Maybe in the recesses, but Luke did not have a direct impact. But I've thought about what he said many times. That is a piece of advice I've stuck with me.
But Brian, let me wish you good luck in meeting Jose Canseco.
It's still out there, man. I hold on to it as a dream.
If you meet Jose, we got to talk about it.
I'll tell him he said hi.
All right, thanks. So, Chris, who did you meet? That was your hero.
Harlan Ellison.
Now, who's Harlan Ellison?
Harlan Ellison is a writer mostly known in the area of science fiction, although he despises the term sci-fi. Has even done a rant about it. But Harlan Ellison is responsible for much of the great science fiction that you've either read or seen. For example, Terminator was actually lifted from a short story that Harlan Ellison wrote called The Man with the Glass Hand.
Okay.
So Man with the Glass Hand, which was also made into a graphic novel. He wrote that story, and that was the basis for Terminator.
So Harlan Ellison's not just like an obscure kind of figure. He's someone who has had some commercial success over the years.
Oh, absolutely. He wrote one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever. It's the episode where they go back in time. They go back in time and they meet a woman named, Captain Kirk falls in love with a woman named Edith Keeler. And her future is that she'll become president, because the timeline's been disrupted. She'll become president of the United States. But
she will be a weaker president and the world will be taken over by Hitler. So he has to allow her to die. It's very tragic. It's one of the real tragic episodes of Star Trek, which has a different ending that he told me about when I met him. But what was great about Ellison is not just the fact that I knew he was responsible for all these great works in science fiction, both in literature and in movies, but in addition, he wrote a book that a friend of mine gave me that's long out of print called Memos from Purgatory. Memos from Purgatory is a book about Harlan Ellison's personal experience having joined a street gang. He was in his early 20s and he was very young looking at the time. And he joined a street gang as a way to write some stories about it. And this is in the 50s when street gangs were kind of a phenomenon. You know, it's romanticized in movies like West Side Story. He joined a street gang, had a 14-year-old girlfriend, was in knife fights in this book. And this was when it's like, what's happening to our youth? When the term juvenile delinquent was actually first coined, right? And the stories in this book, so he wrote his personal experience having joined the street gang and trying to keep up appearances of being, you know, a teenager as a way to actually kind of infiltrate the gang and write about it. And so in addition, and he hates, you know, he's mostly known for his science fiction work, but if you read anything about Harlan Ellison or read his blog, he's a guy that's outspoken. In addition, every issue of Film Threat that would come out, Film Threat, this magazine I did, he would call to yell at me on the phone to tell me everything I did wrong and said, I love you, kid. Like, keep putting the magazine out. And this is back when I was in Michigan. When I moved to Los Angeles, he invited me to his home. So I'd never physically met Harlan Ellison before, and he lives in a mansion in Sherman Oaks. It's called Ellison Wonderland is the name of his house. And he's famously he's a famous comic book collector also. He goes to Comic-Con every year in San Diego and collects comic books and has a collection of everything. And the comic book companies, because he's so revered by everyone in that community, they send him one issue of every comic book that DC and Marvel put out. I don't know if they still do that, but at the time...
So knowing you, this is like exactly your kind of guy.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so it's like he's got all this cred in the science world of science fiction. He's outspoken and angry, which really appealed to me at the time, doing Film Threat, you know, being a young punk. And I went to his house. So I go to his house, I pull up. With my buddy Dennis Daniel had set this up. He knew Ellison. And Dennis Daniel was a radio guy from New York, and he had set this whole thing up. And we walk in, and he's got this smoking hot 30-year-old, because Ellison's in his 50s, maybe 60s. And he's got this 30-year-old hot British wife who comes out, oh, hello. And of course, oh my God, it's like, You could be a Bond girl. You're so smoking hot. And Ellison comes out shirtless. Goes, you motherfucker, Chris Gore, what the fuck are you? And he shakes my hand, and he's got this big, you know, it looks like he's so hairy, looks like he's wearing a sweater, you know, with his like shirtless, and then throws on a shirt, talking to us. Everywhere around his place, you see like some bit of memorabilia. Right? You see some sort of bit of memorabilia from the world of science fiction fantasy.
So it was like a museum for you.
It was like a museum. It was unbelievable. But the bizarre part, you know, he's telling stories and just recounting. I'm asking him all these questions. When you were in that street gang, what really happened? And, you know, he fictionalized kind of the ending to give it a button ending. And he does admit to that he added sort of a fictionalized ending to it. But what was cool was I asked to see his comic book collection. And I'm like, you're going to see my comic book collection. It's hidden in the house. You can't know where it is. It's like, okay, so he blindfolds me. He blindfolds me, starts to take me down he's holding my hand, takes me down a set of stairs.
Yeah, were you fully on board for this whole process?
I wanted to see his comic book collection. At the same time, thoughts are running through my head as I am blindfolded, because Ellison's famously paranoid, right? So he showed us all these parts of his house, like this is where he wrote this is where he writes, but he's paranoid about his stuff, like any good geek would be. So he doesn't want anyone to break into his house and know where his comic books are, because he values them. And now, of course, comic books are not worth what they're used to, but what they used to be. So he blindfolds me. He's taking me down the set of stairs. And for a second, I think something bad's going to happen. Something like horrible. He's going to sexually abuse me. For a moment, the thought crossed my mind. Then he takes my head. Okay, and my head starts to go down like that. I'm not kidding. He's pushing my head down towards the floor because I have to go through a very short hallway. But at the time he grabbed my head, I thought, oh my God, oh no. We get through the hallway, he takes the blindfold off, closes the door, turns on the lights, and you see what looks like nothing in a room. It's nothing. It's just a room filled your comic books aren't here. He takes this crank, and you see before you starts turning this crank, and the crank pulls accordion-like. These shelves come apart, and there is every comic book you could possibly imagine. Action Comics #1. First appearance of Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy #15. And he's showing them to me. I mean, he's a geek after my own heart because I like to think that I'm sort of a hoarder where my stuff is organized, and I would describe Harlan Ellison the same way. He's definitely has hoarder tendencies, but incredibly organized. And he's a hero of mine that really lived up to his full potential.
Yeah, this guy did not disappoint.
He did not disappoint with showing me the stuff and just in the stories. Conversely, within a year of that, sort of an opposite experience, I went to see Forrest J. Ackerman's place, which if you know who Forrest J. Ackerman is.
I do not.
He is the editor of Famous Monsters magazine. He is the father of fandom in a sense. Like he created, in a way, he's the geekiest fan, the biggest fan of geek culture. I mean, he's a guy who, in his collection, had the original miniatures from King Kong. He created Famous Monsters magazine. He was the editor of the magazine, and he used that as a way to just meet his heroes, which is, in a way, part of why I created Film Threat magazine was, well, it's an excuse for me to talk to people that I really admire, filmmakers and other people. I went to Forrest J. Ackerman's house, and we got a tour of his place, and he's got the original models from Son of Kong, but they're crumbling. Nothing is preserved in a way, like things are just on shelves. I mean, he was an older gentleman at the time, and you could see the collection was in disrepair. It needed to be donated to a museum, and it was just really kind of sad. And then the worst part, as I'm being escorted out with my friends, because part of the deal was if Forrest Ackerman gave you a tour at the Acker Mansion, he called it the Acker Mansion. Apparently, all these guys have names for their place. I have to come up with one for mine, but you have to take him out to dinner at a horrible place that had like food. It was like a buffet style dinner, but for senior citizens. So tapioca pudding was big on the menu. So you had to kind of endure that meal, and then you'd get the tour. So he's escorting us out, and we're getting ready to go to the restaurant, and I see in a pile in his bedroom, Jugs magazine. Giant pile of Jugs magazine. I appreciate the fact that he has an affection for adult material as I do, but it definitely brought him down in stature in my mind. Well, that's it for this week's Crash. I really want to thank Caleb Bacon for having me on the show. You can follow him at Caleb Eats Bacon. You can follow the show, Man School Show, at Man School Show. And you go to manschoolshow.com, and you can get links to the Facebook, the Instagram, and they even have a Pinterest. There's a Man School Pinterest, believe it or not. But really want to thank Caleb. He's really done a service by creating the show. Just amazing stories, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell my Harlan Ellison and Forrest Ackerman story, which is perfect hearing this at WonderCon.
This was wonderful. This is like one of the best conventions I've ever been to, for sure. It was so big this year, but my feet are done. That's for sure.
Is the one thing, wear comfortable shoes.
Oh yeah.
Or have hobbit feet. I think that always helps. And I want to say thank you to everyone listening to this. You can follow me at that Chris Gore on Twitter. You can follow the show at PodCRASH Show. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PodCRASH. Go to iTunes, and if you feel we deserve it, give us a 5-star review, post a comment. I'll be reading the comments on the podcast. And one final thing to say at WonderCon, I think we can both say it together. Let's get out of here!
Nice.
We thought you were dead.
Where's Flint?
It was incredible. He threw himself into the beam and distracted the MCP just long enough for you to get the disc in. He saved us. He really did it.
Video warriors, look at the I.O. tower.
Every tower is lighting up.
if you're still listening to this, you're probably a lot like me. You're the kind of person that stays all the way through to the end of a convention. You're a convention nerd and a convention geek. And if you're that kind of person, we're a lot alike, and I like you. For that, you shall be rewarded. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to PodCRASH with that Chris Gore, 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500, Los Angeles, California, 90036. You will be rewarded with the PodCRASH Fan Club Kit. It's free. Just send a self-addressed stamped envelope. I'll pop it back in the mail to you. And it's pretty awesome. It's really cool. I think you'll dig it. Later.